and this is Justin, and we are. I'm an atheist, and you are a Christian. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm a Christian.
All right, and you wanted us to have a discussion about the existence of God. Is that specifically the topic that you had in mind, or did you have something else in mind as well?
Well, yeah. So I engage with atheists on different forums often,
Okay.
and somewhere along the line, I came across your name, and I found out that you had written a book, Why There Is No God.
Oh, you have that.
I have it, and I read it, and and at the end of the book, you invite people. If you would like to further discuss any topic with me directly, you can schedule an online video with me. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh, great. Okay, and this is proof that it. I'm actually surprised that more people didn't take me up on that,
Yeah.
and I was wondering maybe that people thought I wasn't being serious. So here's proof that I was being serious.
There you go.
Yeah.
Proof exists.
Yes.
So yeah, I figured that I could just extract a couple of your quotes out of here, and maybe that could serve as a segue into a broader conversation.
Okay, I'll have mine here. By the way, these are things that I would like to change in my book a little bit. See, there's so many. A little bit.
Well, maybe some of those are the ones I want to talk about.
Okay, good.
All right, so I'm gonna start on page 36.
36. Okay.
All right. At the top of page 36. So I've underlined a couple of key points, so I'm not going to read the whole page here. But your first question says, "Are things moral simply because God says so?"
Mm-hmm.
And then a little bit later down, towards the end of that paragraph, you say, "If God creates morality simply by saying whether something is right or wrong,
Mm-hmm.
then that's not really morality. It's arbitrariness." So first, I want to address the question: Are things moral simply because God says so?
Mm-hmm.
My answer to that would be no,
No.
not at all. And I'll explain in a minute. Now you say, if God creates morality simply by saying whether something is right or wrong, then that's not really morality. It's arbitrariness. And I would say, yes, absolutely, that is true. But I know that you're speaking more exclusively to religions, not just Christianity, but I'm assuming that it pertains also to Christianity.
So, but you agree with me. You agree. So you're saying things are intrinsically. I mean, well, I mean, there's another discussion whether there is such a thing as moral or immoral, or good or bad. But like, you're saying that things are intrinsically good or bad, with or without God commanding it to be so. Is that your view?
Hang on one second, okay?
Okay.
I need to fix the audio here so I can hear you better.
All right.
Hello?
Maybe my microphone. Okay, can you hear me?
No, it was me. That's better. No, my point is that things are not moral simply because God says so.
Mm-hmm.
So stealing isn't wrong because it offends people and it takes things that belong to them, or because God says that it's wrong. And adultery is not wrong because it wrecks marriages, nor is it wrong because God says that it's wrong. It's wrong because God is not a thief and God is faithful, and therefore morals are an expression of God's character. So in that sense, God has not created morality. It is not something above or below him. It is an expression of the nature of his character. So if he did create them, it would be arbitrary. But that's just
morality is uncreated.
Yeah, morality is not created. It is an expression of God's of God's character.
So God doesn't have a choice other than to be moral or good.
Well, it's a reflection of his character.
So God cannot be evil, basically.
No, he cannot be evil, which would leave us to this next point.
But can I ask you a question? Would that mean that God doesn't have free will? If God cannot be evil?
God doesn't have the free will in the sense that most people define free will. God has free will that is consistent with his own attributes and his own characters, and there are certain things that we know about God. God cannot lie. God cannot sin. So he has free will, but he cannot. But it's consistent within his nature.
So because it's consistent with his nature, his nature limits him, right?
His well, he wasn't. That's an interesting question. Limited to in regards to morality.
To all the things that you would define as its nature, like, so for example,
Well,
if it's within its nature, yeah, go.
I would submit that God is not bound by any of the things we might be bound by, but God is immutable, so God cannot lie, God cannot change. So if you want to call that a limitation, it's not so much a limitation because he can't do it. It's just because he revealed and he's promised that he wouldn't change. And
and he can't break his promise.
No, absolutely not.
So if he can, then technically. By the way, I'm not trying to trick you into saying something that is like, to say like, haha, you're wrong or anything. I'm honestly
I don't take it like that at all.
Okay, good. Yeah. I don't like to come off as gotcha or something like that. But
sure.
But to me, if God cannot go against its nature, right? So I understand that you're saying that he doesn't have the limitations that we have, but
right.
at some point, based on your definition or your view of God, he does have some limitations, right? He can't, based on his nature, he cannot lie, he cannot break his promise, he cannot be evil. So there's some limit. So and if there's a limit to what he can do, wouldn't that contradict the all-powerful, a God that could do anything? Wouldn't that be somewhat of a contradiction, or no?
No, it wouldn't be a contradiction because in his decretive will, he has ordained and sanctioned all that comes to pass. Now, now sometimes we get these silly arguments. Can God make a rock so big that he couldn't lift it? But these are just silly arguments because we have to stay as Christians. The Bible is our guiding factor in interpreting the Bible. That's what we call the analogy of faith. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of it's one of those things that we're not to pry into, but God has because he has said he is immutable. In a sense, we could call that a limitation. I would much rather him set limitations for himself than be a God that just is sporadic and we aren't really sure if tomorrow he's going to flood the earth. But in Genesis 8:9, he has promised that he would not do that.
But if you put limitations on yourself, if it's voluntary limitations, right, then it's not really limitations, are they? Right? Because if it's a limitation, it's a limitation that you can remove.
Well, but he can't remove it because he said he wouldn't.
Okay, but if he can't, then he's limited, right? If he can remove them, then he's not limited. And if he can't remove, and if you can't, okay. But I know this is going to be a play on words, but one thing that you said that is interesting is that I would rather, right? Do you think that's relevant? That what we rather is that at all matters to what the truth is?
Oh, absolutely not. No, okay. Me as a mere finite human, what I'd rather be or not be is completely irrelevant. That wasn't my point.
Yeah, I understand. But the reason why I find it interesting is because I don't know if you agree with this or not, but one thing that we get from Christians and Muslims and other theists is that the atheist worldview is too cold or too bleak or too with no hope or and stuff like that. And one thing, I mean, even though I don't agree with that, but my response is that even if that was the case, it wouldn't really matter, would it? Like, the truth could be not very pleasing, and that the fact is that the universe could care less about what we want the universe to be like, right?
And they exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
The universe could conceivably care less whether we torture our neighbors to death for fun or love them as ourselves.
But we care, even if the universe doesn't care.
Well, but by your own admission, life is objectively meaningless.
Well, when you say objective, we mean that has two different meanings, right? If objective, if we mean from the point of view of the universe, yes, it's meaningless. But if by objective we mean something that most humans could agree on, some people define it like that. But yes, I agree. But I agree with you on that. That from the point of view of the universe, life is meaningless. But I don't. I mean, I don't care about the point of view of the universe. I care about our point of view, right? So
why?
Because it's my point of view. I mean, that's the definition. That's the definition of caring, right? I care about. The thing is that even if the universe doesn't care that about a tortured child, that the fact is that I care, right? So
right.
Even if it's meaningless to the universe, the fact is that it's not meaningless to me, right?
But you throw this word objective around, so that's very what you're describing is very much subjective, because if it's just to you, then okay, I mean, I can grant that. But when you say that it's objective, within,
I'm agreeing with you that it's not objective, right? It's very subjective. But
okay.
the good thing is that it's a very, even though it's subjective, it's very common among humans, right? To care for each other, right?
Well,
so it's not. Well, I'll get to that. It's not universal. There are psychopaths out there, but at least it's very common, right? So it's not even when it comes to humans, it's not completely objective, but because it's very common, we get to take advantage of these feelings of caring for each other. But why that is, I think you probably would. You don't believe in evolution either, or is that something that you don't agree with, or?
No, I don't believe that our ancestries are bacteria. No.
Okay, so my explanation for why we care is probably something that you don't agree with, because I have a biological explanation for why it's very common that we care. I mean, most social animals care for each other. Humans are not unique in the fact that they care for their fellow species, fellow members of their own species, right? There are some animals out there that are more self-centered, but most animals that live in tribes or live together, they need to, for them to be able to survive, they need to care for each other. So that's why they have the sense of sympathy.
Right.
That's
but the difference between us and animals is that we have a moral code, and they do not. They have an instinctive code, and you can argue empathy, but that's kind of a mute point, because again, we're talking about humans. And if you have anything else to say, that's great. But I'd like to move on to one more.
No, sorry. And feel free to interrupt me if I go off course.
No. Hey, and one thing I want to say is I read a lot of atheists. I've read Dawkins and Harris and Hitchens, and they're very nasty and very rude. And when reading your book, I could understand. I could quickly ascertain that you're not of that ilk. That you're very polite, and I appreciate about that and respect that about you.
Thank you.
Obviously, we're gonna have some very serious disagreements, but that's okay. You say in the latter part, page 36, you say, yeah, I'll wait for you to get out.
Okay.
All right. It says, most religions claim an all-powerful, all-loving, benevolent deity. Now, right there, I want to stop and make a correction. Now, I'll know that some Christians will claim that God is all-loving, but that's usually because they don't read the Bible.
Mm.
God, the Christian God, is not all-loving. In fact, to the contrary, we read in places like Psalm 5 that he hates some. He hates the bloodthirsty. He hates the wicked. He hates the deceitful. So God is not all loving. And if he was all loving, I think it would be a very eccentric way of showing that when he sends people to hell for eternity, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And actually, I have to look into change most to many, because even in Islam they don't agree with all
Yeah.
loving. Loving they agree with, all loving Islam doesn't
Right.
agree with, because
Well, the
Islam.
definition of a God is love. He is most certainly love, but he's not all loving. So just for the sake of argument, I'm going to change this to all good, because the Christian doctrine would affirm that God is all powerful and all good.
Oh,
So,
okay, yeah, actually that's a good one. All good. Good catch.
well, give me credit for that in your book. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so I'll continue. So we'll just substitute all loving with all good. Most religions claim that an all-powerful, all-good, benevolent deity. However, physical reality often contradicts this claim. Terrible things happen to people every day. Children die tragically young, and natural disasters wipe out whole communities, and people die from accidents and disease. These do not suggest a righteous and compassionate God. These suggest a God that is either powerless or cruel or non-existent. Now, I crossed out non-existence because obviously I presuppose that God exists. So we'll just stay with the powerless or cruel. So, and another way that David Hume posited this thesis, and this is kind of reworded in kind of the same fashion. That is the idea where that they try to pit God's omnipotence, or him being all powerful, with his attributes of being good, right?
Yes.
And so these two attributes of God, his omnipotence and his him being all good, by themselves, standing alone, they raise no problem. And you know, so I guess it isn't until the third element, that is that evil exists, that we have this ostensible problem of evil in the Christian worldview. Um, now, before whenever we're talking about things about the origin of sin or the origin of evil, um, uh, it's why I don't think it's wise or necessary for me to defend God in the respect of the false charge that he might somehow be evil, because he allows evil to exist. Saint Augustine, I don't know if you're familiar with, but he once said that truth is like a lion. You just let it loose, and it will defend itself. So I can do that, and I can let God defend himself via Scripture. We read in Psalm 92:15 that there is no unrighteousness found in God. And in the 34th chapter of Job,
There's no one. Can you repeat that part?
there is no unrighteousness found in God.
Okay.
And the 10th verse in the 34th chapter of Job says that far be it from God to do any wickedness. So we can right out of the gate refute this charge that God is somehow evil or the author of sin.
But this is assuming the Bible is true.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely get to that
Okay.
in a minute, and I'll explain to you why I start there. In Isaiah, it says that God created evil. So now we're like, okay, well, God created evil, but he's not the author of evil, and he's not. We cannot conflate his authorship with his creation of something, and the reason we can't do that is because the Bible does not permit it. Now, I don't understand the Trinity in its fullness. How there can be one God, one essence, yet within that essence, three distinct persons. I don't understand the incarnation in its fullness. How God can be fully man and fully God at the same time. There are things I cannot understand. This how Deuteronomy 29:29, and I'll keep going back to the Bible, and I will explain why in a minute. Deuteronomy 29:29 says that the secret things belong to the Lord, and I think it would be a great sin of arrogance for me to somehow demand that God is somehow obligated to reveal that which he has chosen to conceal. So if these things seem self-contradictory, I would submit that's because God is God and we are not, and there comes a point in time where our brains tap out, and we cannot. We can only go so far into the depths of the sovereignty and the wisdom of God before before our finite minds, we just can't attain it. This does not mean that God is illogical or irrational. It does most certainly mean that God is transrational and translogical, meaning because we tap out at a certain point, his limitations are not our limitations. Now, I preface that with saying that when people try to pit God's omnipotence against his all goodness, there is an explanation for this, and I would submit that you wouldn't have to look much further than the cross. In the Christian worldview, the crucifixion of Jesus, the Lord of glory, was the most vile, heinous, evil act ever committed in human history. And did God not have a morally sufficient reason for allowing that to exist? And I can let that stand on its own weight. But as I let that stand on its own weight, I would ask you, I would say that evil is not a problem for the Christian. It's a problem for the atheist, because they cannot define what evil is objectively. Evil is just something that they don't like.
Okay, so when it comes to we can't explain God and we can't fully understand, do you think we can't fully understand him, or we can't understand him at all? Like,
No,
we
no,
can
no.
understand some things about it. Yeah.
No, we can. Hang on one second. The things that we can understand about him, he is revealed to us in this word.
Yeah.
Now, there are some things we can't understand about him, because Proverbs says it is the glory of the Lord to conceal things.
But I think we're taking this from, if we want to discuss this step by step, we can't. We need to go from the point of how do we even know there is a God before we even talk about the attributes of God and what can we know about it, right?
Sure.
And the thing is about if we can't know something, then what's the point of even, if God is beyond our logic, how could you even know that if it's true, right? I can say that about almost anything. I could say that some X exists, you ask me to prove it, and then I will be like, it's beyond your logic or understanding. And guess what? I could actually be right. I'm not saying that I could be right, but the thing is that I have given you no reason to believe in X, right? X might actually exist, but because it's beyond your logic, you have no reason to believe in it, right? And guess what? There's infinite number of things that could exist that are beyond that might be beyond your logic, right? But the problem with that is that all of them will, if you consider the infinite number of things that I could come up with, and they all could be true, and they all could be beyond our logic, then the chances of each one of them being true, it would become infinitely small. You know what I mean? So the thing is that even if something is beyond my logic, it's still logical for me not to withhold belief until it reaches something about it reaches within the realm of my logic, right? So for me to be able to, attribute any amount of probability to its existence, right? And when it comes to evil, I think we already, I mean, I agree with you that there is no from the universe point of view, there is no such thing as objectively good or evil. I'm agreeing with you on that, right? That's without God, that would be the case, right?
So it doesn't matter if someone rapes a little girl, right? Because there's nothing.
It matters to me. It doesn't matter to the universe. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to you, but it doesn't. But the person who rapes the little girl, it doesn't matter to him. So why is one set of nerve cells more authoritative than the other set of nerve cells?
Well, okay, from the point of view of the universe, one of them is not better than the other one.
Okay,
But from my point of view, and
why is your
one of
point
them
of view more authoritative than the molester and rapist?
It's not. It's just that I'm going to try to stop him.
Okay, but
right?
that doesn't answer the question. Well, I guess you did
No,
answer. You said it's not. So
answer the question. It's not.
Okay, so
Yes, but because I want to stop him, I will try to stop him.
Essentially, your atheism has led you to where we have no really objective moral outrage for the likes of the Crusades or Stalin.
We have outrage because a lot of us. Okay, objective. Okay, remove the objective part, and we have the rest. I'm just saying the objective part doesn't really matter. The fact is, we have outrage, right? We have if we have
move the objective. You cannot move the objective. You do not. Armin, is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah, that's close enough.
Armin, you do not live in the world like that. Like you would say, you would stop someone. Why? Because you believe it's objectively wrong. You say remove the word objective, but you can't do that. You don't live in the world like that. We all treat certain acts as inherently immoral, no matter what anybody else says. And the moment you say that you don't, but yet you impose that morality on someone else, you're showing that you're blissfully unaware of the contradictions within your own system.
Wait, we all of us agree. Actually, I would say that most people, like, there's a lot of people that do commit crimes. They don't agree that those things are wrong, right? The good thing is, I agree that us people with sense of sympathy, yes, we are imposing our view on other people without it, and I'm happy that we are doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm agreeing with you that I don't believe in an objective, moral view. But the thing is that I think the fact that us people, me and you have sympathy for our fellow other human beings in that are suffering. We agree. Like, me and you agree with it.
Why should we?
It's just there, right? There's no such thing. I mean, the fact should is not the relevant question because it exists. The thing is that I can't help it.
Because
I can't help. Yeah, I can't help it.
That's arbitrary.
Might be, but it's there.
Okay.
The thing is that our sympathy for our fellow. Yeah, go on.
That's the fallacy of irrelevant theses. You're just telling me what is. You're not telling me why.
Oh, why? As in, okay, when you ask why, there's two meanings to that question. Why, as in the purpose of it, or why, as in how it came to be? Why? Because why, as in purpose to it, probably know that I don't believe that there's an inherent purpose for it, right? But why, as in how it came to be, I think you also know how I would answer that, and you wouldn't agree with that because my answer would be evolutionary and biological. But what we could agree on, me and you, is that it does exist, right? Your sense of sympathy for our fellow human beings exists, right? When you see another human being suffer, you get distressed, don't you?
I'm sorry. My daughter. 1 second, okay? I'm really sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No worries.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. So where were we?
So let's. Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. Here's what we disagree on. The fact that morality is objective or not. We disagree on the source of it, and we disagree on the purpose of it. But what we agree on is that our sense of sympathy for our fellow human beings exists. Me and you agree on that, right? Like,
yes, but what I'm saying is I have justification for that, and you don't.
Yeah, I agree. I don't. But the thing is that I agree that it is there, right? We agree that I care when I see somebody in great suffering. It makes me uncomfortable, and it probably makes you uncomfortable as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing is that we might disagree, keep arguing about why it's there, and should it be there, or does it even matter if it should be or not be there or not be there? But the fact is that while it's there, while me and you see somebody suffering and we can help that person, at that time we're not going to argue with each other about the source of sympathy, about the purpose of sympathy. Me and you are going to help out that person, right?
Right. That's because we're made in the image of God.
Yeah, well, we disagree on that part, but while that person is suffering, me and you could cooperate with each other and get that person some help, right? And when somebody is causing somebody harm, again, you might be telling me that I'm imposing my view on that person because in my worldview there's no objective morality, and you are not imposing your view because in your worldview morality is something universal and objective.
Yeah.
But again, when that person is torturing somebody, at that point we're not going to talk about our these disagreements, and we're just going to try to stop that guy.
Of course, but that's irrelevant. So you say, well, yeah, we agree on these things, so we shouldn't discuss where the source from.
No. We should discuss. But I'm just saying, when that happens, it's going to happen. It's going to have the same effect. The thing is that my sympathy and your sympathy, if there is sympathy out there, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't argue. This is actually a very interesting discussion, and we should have this discussion. But I'm just pointing out that at the time of need, if we have sympathy for each other, if sympathy exists, the effect at the end is going to be the same, right?
Is something wrong?
Whether it's objective or not. Yeah.
Is there something wrong with lacking sympathy or empathy?
From my point of view, yes. From the universe point of view, no.
Okay. What about the guy who's walking down the street and sees that somebody's got hit by a car, looks at him, looks at his watch and says, "Oh, I'm late for an appointment. I need to get to my appointment," and walks on. Is he wrong for lacking empathy?
Again, from my point of view, yes. From the universe point of view, no.
I'm not asking from your point of view. What about his point of view? Why does his point of view? Why is it only your point of view and the universe's point of view? What about his point of view?
From his point of view, is not wrong.
It's not wrong. Okay, well,
yeah. But the thing is,
has led you to where there's nothing inherently wrong, and I appreciate your consistency, and that's great.
But the thing is that I do believe that even though from his point of view, it's not wrong. The fact is that if more people are like you and me, right, it's good. More people, and our world will be happier for both people with sympathy and even with people for that sympathy. I think sympathy is.
Why should we want to be happy though?
Well, again, there's no reason. But the thing is that that's what we want, right? Why do we want that? The fact that it's there, So it's kind of saying like, it's kind of you give me a cake and you're like, do you like this cake? And you're like, yeah, I like this cake. It tastes really good. I'm like, well, why? Or like, I like it. It's just that I like it. So you're like, but there's nothing, but I don't like it. So why are you eating this cake? Or like, I just like it. This is what I like. This is how I like the world to be, right? Is there any objective reason why this cake should be tasty? No. The thing is that I want the world to be happier, and you probably want the world to be happier.
Right,
and I'm glad that most people prefer a happier world. I'm just happy that I'm lucky enough that more people agree with me than disagree with me. I agree with you that there's nothing fundamentally wrong with, objectively wrong with people disagreeing with the fact that it would be better for the world to be happier. I'm just happy that we were lucky enough that most people on this planet prefer a happier world than a sad and depressed world, right?
Okay. So we've been on this subject for a minute, so we'll move on in a second. But just to clarify, you have two characteristics, of human behaviors. You have the inflicting of pain, and you have the avoidance of pain. Mm-hmm. Now, you're not ranking one over the other, are you, or are you?
From whose point of view?
Well,
from my point of view, I am. From my point of view, I am.
Is it arbitrary?
Define. But well, is it arbitrary for you to prefer cake, chocolate over vanilla?
Well, I think when you're comparing cake to morals, it's kind of a non sequitur.
Well, that's my preference, and the good thing is that it's most people's preference. And the thing is that I think if it wasn't, we would have been doomed many ages ago,
Okay.
right? If most people did not have sympathy, we would have killed. But like our civilization would not even survive till now. You know, we wouldn't even be around if people
Not that
didn't
there's
care.
anything wrong with that, though, right?
From the universe point of view, no. But from my point of view, I'm really happy that we managed to stay around this long. It's just it makes me happy, and that's what, to me, that's great. You know, it makes me happy to see somebody smile. It makes me happy to see somebody get out of distress. It makes me happy to see somebody witness somebody helping with each other just for the sake of the satisfaction of seeing somebody happy. You know, those things make me happy, and I believe it makes more people in the world have that feeling. And it's a feeling that if people learn how to exercise more, it's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it's going to get, and the stronger it gets, it benefits more people, and it even benefits people that don't have that feeling. I think that we could even show sympathy to people that don't have sympathy. You know, I think
not that there's any wrong with that. I mean, if they don't have sympathy, it's cool in their subjective view that there's nothing wrong with it. Why would you impose? I
impose it because I care for them.
Okay. Hey, these peanuts are really good. You want one? Oh wait, I'm sorry. You're on a computer. All right, let's move on to something else. Laws of logic. Do you believe that laws of logic are invariant, abstract, necessary, and universal?
You mean the three one that we mentioned? Yeah.
You do?
The universal laws. Well, here's the thing. I don't actually. I think this gets too complicated for me because I mean, how do we have other universes? Do the laws of logic apply there? It's for me.
Universe. I'm talking about our universe. Our laws of logic invariant.
I believe so, but I think when I study modern physics and stuff, at one point, and I'm just studying it for the sake of entertainment, and for me, it gets. I believe that if I have no authority to even feel like I could make any, just guess, and there are people that have committed their entire lives into this, trying to figure these things out, and they don't seem sure about it. So yeah, but I do believe that there are some universal laws of logic, and I don't even know how is possible for that not to be true. But again, I do believe that when you get to that realm, it becomes that topic becomes a bit too complicated for me to make any statement and be too.
Okay, so you said they're universal. Are they unchanging?
Yeah. I mean, that's again, that's something that it's way too philosophical and complicated. But yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Yes, it's not as complicated as you might think. Where do you get the laws of logic without God?
Wait, why would we even need God for the laws of logic?
Well, I mean, you're an atheist. We're a time and chance universe.
Where did the laws of logic came from? Is that your question? I don't know.
No, I'm just saying how. No, I say how. Well, that I mean, my question was how do you get them without God? But I guess that would follow. Where do they come from?
I have no idea. I have no idea, and I don't think anybody else.
It's just the way they are.
No. There's probably a good reason for it. I just don't think I know the reason. I don't think anybody.
Nobody knows. Is it beyond the human mind?
I don't know. Maybe it's so beyond human mind that we will never understand. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's beyond human mind at the moment. I don't know.
It's definitely beyond the human mind because logic is a reflection of God.
But again, I mean, how do you know that? But we can get to that
because I'll tell you how I know that. Because God is the precondition for knowledge. God is a precondition for reason. God is a precondition for rationality. And when you go any other place to God, to faith in God for that basis of rationality, reason, and knowledge, your worldview is reduced to absurdity. You basically have said, well, these things I don't know how they exist, but they do. But now you ask me, well, how do you know that God exists? And if I just said to you, well, it's just that way, I don't know, but it's just that way. That wouldn't be acceptable. But yet you can ask me that question, and I can ask you that question, and you say, well, I don't know. It's
No,
just the way.
I didn't say. Well, I didn't say that these things don't. I mean, we agree on the fact that these exist, right?
Yes, but
That
I,
these
I
laws
have
of
a
logic
just,
exist. So we don't have.
I have a justification for it, and you do not. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but okay. The thing is, I admit that I don't know, right?
Yeah,
And you
but you don't
saying,
live like that.
hmm?
You don't live like
But
Go ahead.
but my claim is not that we don't know if they exist or not. We agree on the fact that they exist, right? Our disagreement is on why they exist. But when it comes to God, it becomes a different. It's not the same. It's not the same because now we're even disagreeing on whether it exists or not.
No,
We're not only disagreeing on how the justification. We also disagree on whether if it's there. So when we're agreeing on the fact that it exists, except that's different from when we don't. You need to provide justification for its existence, right?
well, I do.
If we are agreeing on what was it? I missed it. Then what was the justification?
The justification is God is a precondition for any intelligibility.
Wait, so God exists because you can't imagine any other world? Is that
Negative. Negative. God
okay?
exists because he has revealed that he exists. Also, not only to me, but also to you.
Okay, I might have missed it. How did he reveal it to me?
Uh, 1 second.
By the way, if I ever come off as condescending, let me know. I'm not trying to.
No, sir. I mean, hey, these kind of conversations get passionate, and I'm not trying to be rude either. So don't take
You're not being rude at all.
Okay. Romans 1:18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, by who their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world and all the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. That's how you know. That's how God exists. Now you're probably like, well, I'm challenging your Bible, right? That's probably what you're going on in your head right now. But let me tell you my approach. I'm a presuppositionalist, which means I start with the Word of God. Now, if I go to an outside source to authenticate the Bible, which I believe is self-authenticating, that outside source has taken place of my ultimate authority in the Bible, and that outside source has now become my ultimate authority. And I believe that this is a blasphemous approach that flies in the teeth of the third commandment. So I refuse to do that. I start with the Bible and I reason out from the Bible. I don't reason my way to the Bible. Now, speaking of reason,
So how do you know the Bible is true again? Can we get to that? Or
self-revelatory, God has revealed it not only to me but only to you. The reason you don't believe it is because you have suppressed the truth in unrighteousness, as Romans 1 says.
So you know that God has revealed it to us because it says so in the Bible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you know the Bible is true because God has revealed it to us?
Because
secular?
The Bible is true because it's self-authenticating. It needs no outside authentication. God that would need our autonomous stamp.
But I asked you, how do you know the Bible is true? And you said because it was revealed to me.
The Bible is true because it's self-authenticating.
Okay, so how does it do that? Where does it say that? How does it self-authenticate itself?
How does it self-authenticate? Because well, I just read you Romans 1. That's a great place to start.
Okay, okay, but you read me a verse that said that it was revealed to me, right?
Yes.
So the Bible is true, and we know that because it was revealed to me, and we know that it was revealed to me because it says so in the Bible.
Yes.
So that's don't you see that that's a circular argument?
Yes, sir, I do. Now, speaking of circularity, I think you bring up a really good point. How do you ascertain truth? Do you use your reason when you look at truth and evidences and proof, and you weigh these evidences and proof to come to conclusions? Do you use your reason?
I hope so. Yeah.
Okay. Now, would you agree that some people's ability to reason has been damaged through a head injury or whatever? How do you know that you're not one of those people?
I don't know. I might be wrong. I might be wrong about everything.
Right. You might be wrong about everything, so you've given up knowledge.
I don't have absolute knowledge on anything. Yeah, I could be wrong about everything.
Could you be absolutely right about that statement?
I could be. Could I absolutely? Well, I could. Yeah, I could absolutely be right about anything, but it would be.
No,
but I wouldn't know that.
No. You said that I
It's
don't
possible.
know.
Yeah, it's possible for me to be absolutely right about something, but I wouldn't know that if I'm absolutely right about something or not.
Do you know that? Because you just said that you could be wrong about everything you know. You don't know anything absolutely. Therefore, it follows you know nothing.
No. Well, no, nothing. I don't know if I know nothing, right?
Yeah.
But the thing, so I might know something. A lot of the things I know might be the truth.
You couldn't know that if you know something because you don't know. You've already given up.
But I could. No, I didn't give up. I tried to do the best with what I have. The thing is that
that true? Is that true?
It's the best I have. The thing is that just because something is not 100% certain doesn't mean that I have to give up on it, right?
Well, if I say my ceiling is 10 feet tall, could I be wrong?
Yeah, you might be you might be in a coma and dreaming it. So yeah, you could be.
No. I'm saying if I'm looking at my ceiling right now and I'm gonna say it's 10 feet. Could I be wrong about that?
Yeah, you could be wrong.
I could be wrong. Then it follows that I don't know.
Yeah,
therefore,
but do you think that that's okay? That's a very good example, right? So do you think that because you're not 100% accurate about how tall your ceiling is, will you be like, well, then because I can't get it right 100%, then it could be 1 feet tall, then it could be actually 0. You
right?
know?
And it follows.
They're not. No. The thing is that just because I can't know everything with 100% certainty doesn't mean that all statements are equally valid. These two things don't follow, right? For example,
Why?
Because I could assign, just because I can assign 0 and 100% probability to things doesn't mean that everything is equally possible, right? For example, okay, so you ask me, is this, I take a jar of milk out of my fridge, right?
Yeah.
And I'm about to drink it. They're like, wait, don't drink it.
That was an accident.
Okay, no. That might be, the milk might have gone bad. Are you sure it hasn't got bad? I'd be like, no, I'm not sure. Let me check. So yeah, I wasn't sure about something, right? But then maybe the second statement could be like, hey, don't drink that. That's not milk in there. It's lava, right? One of these statements is much less probable than the other one, right? Even I think that we could agree that even though we can't be 100% certain about things, we could at least.
You said we can be 100% certain about something?
No, we can't. Because even though we can't be 100% certain about some things, at least we can assign probability to different events in our world, right?
Are you 100% certain that we can assign a probability?
No.
Okay, well.
But I could be but I'm very sure, but I'm almost sure about it, right? But the thing is that I don't need to be I
there's not
don't
a
need to.
degree of, there's not a degree of truth. It's you are or you aren't
Yeah.
about it.
No, I agree that the world itself is not like that. Things are either true or not true, right? But the thing is that because I'm not God, and because you're not God, and because we don't have absolute knowledge,
We don't have absolute knowledge, but I know someone who does.
Yeah,
I can know things for
yeah,
certain.
but let's stay on topic. Because me and you don't have absolute knowledge, right? There's nothing. I can't claim anything with certainty, even though the world itself is completely certain about what is true or what's not true. Because I can't 100% trust my senses. I can't 100% trust my logic. I can't be sure about anything. But I don't need to be 100% sure about everything to make judgment calls, right?
So you live by blind faith.
No, that's exactly the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying I make judgment calls, but yeah, exactly, because blind faith would require me to not consider everything equally possible.
No, blind faith.
I don't consider.
Faith is when you give up knowledge, but you make knowledge claims on faith.
No, that's exactly the opposite. Faith is when you claim knowledge without reason. I'm not even claiming knowledge.
Yeah, but you couldn't even know that your reasoning is valid.
That's exactly the opposite of faith, because I'm not claiming any knowledge, right?
Then why do you write a book that has so many knowledge claims in it when you don't name?
I actually explained that in the introduction. What I say in the introduction, for example, like if somebody comes to me and says, my example was this, right? Somebody comes and tells me, like, do you think your wife is an assassin from China hired to kill you, right, by the Chinese government, right? Can you be 100% sure that that's not the case? No, I can't be 100% sure that that's not the case, but I still think that's a ridiculous claim. I feel it's very unlikely. For me, the fact that it's very unlikely, it's enough for me to treat it at 0%. When things become very likely, I treat them, for the sake of practicality, as if it's 100% true. And when something becomes close to 0% possible, even though I can't be 100% that it's 0%, I treat it as if it's 0% possible, because it would be ridiculous for me to treat anything possible.
That's faith. That's faith. Because you don't know. Because by your own admission, you don't know.
Yeah, but faith is claiming that you know. Faith. No. Faith is claiming that you do know, not the claim that you don't know. Faith is claiming that you know something without a good reason.
Really?
I'm actually being very, very. Faith is, I'm actually being completely.
You said here that faith, by definition, is an abandonment of reason.
Yeah, and a lot of religious people agree with me that faith is like.
Actually, I would disagree with you, because you give three definitions here. You say, I don't need evidence. These are different Christians quotes. You say, I don't need evidence. I just have faith. If you had faith, you know what it was. You know that it was true. God cannot be comprehended or understood. You just have to believe. Those are not biblical definitions of faith. Faith.
I did mention that based on certain definitions of faith. I made it clear that not all definition of faith. Based on certain definition of faith.
But I think,
and I know you disagree with
the definition of faith is what we need to get from the Bible. And the Bible defines faith, the biblical faith, is assurance. It's not something that pits reason against faith is not pitted against reason. It is the basis for reason, and it is assurance. It equates it with assurance. Now back to your you said in your introduction. I'd like to go to your introduction, and I find, I'm sure there's a good explanation for this, but I thought this was it gave me a chortle, to say the least. It says, during the debate, one concept you'll see come up repeatedly in this book is the idea of the burden of proof. During any debate, it's the job of the person making a claim to provide support, evidence, and reasoning for that claim. It simply doesn't make sense to make an unfounded claim with no evidence to back it up and demand that the other person either agree with you or disapprove your unfounded statement. When I read that, I had to check it. the title of this book. The burden of proof, according to the title of your book, is on you. This is an active claim that God does not exist.
No, but I actually explained in the introduction why the justification for the title, right? Because I said that for the sake, like I said to you, right? If you ask me if your wife is an assassin from China trying to kill you, right? If I wanted to be accurate, I would have to tell you probably not. It's very unlikely, but I can't prove otherwise. If I wanted to be accurate with you, right?
Yeah.
And throughout daily communication, like if we talk like this all day, everything you ask me.
Hey. So sorry. I have kids, man, and so it's
No,
okay.
So no, that's okay. Feel free to take off anytime you need to. Okay. But I agree with you that you can't make that claim. And on a day-to-day basis, if we wanted to talk like that, you say like, "Hey, where are you?" I'm like, "I'm probably in my room." "What are you eating right now?" "I'm probably eating spaghetti, but I can't prove right now that this is not a dream. But based on everything that I'm feeling right now, I'm gonna go judge by this. This is probably I'm awake and I'm eating spaghetti right now." And then you could ask me like, "Hey, where are you going right now? Where are you heading?" Like, "I'm going to my friend's home. Probably, if I don't die, if aliens don't invade the planet, if there's not an earthquake." Like, we don't talk like that unless we want to be specific and we're talking philosophically and we want to, if you wanted me to be accurate about something, then if I have good enough reason for something, if I'm reasonably sure about something, then we say like, "Hey, is your wife an assassin from China?" "No." "Are you eating spaghetti?" "Yes." "Where are you going to go?" "To my friend's house. I'm going to be there in about 10 minutes. That's how we talk. We don't keep on adjusting. So for me, I agree with you when it comes to if I want to talk about God, I can't make an absolute claim, right? But I don't know. But what I'm saying is that I don't have to, every time somebody asks me if there's a God, I don't have to go out of my way, even though that's more accurate, to be like, there's no way for me to disprove all definitions of God. But given the fact that there's many claims that you could make that are impossible to prove wrong, I'm going to put God in one of those, in the category of one of those entities, and therefore the likelihood of its existence is close to zero. I'm just going to say, no, there's no God, right? But if you want me to be more precise, more accurate, then I would say that to you. The thing is, and that that's why I explained in the introduction, hence why the title. But the thing is that I think the title itself, you don't have to go far to realize that I'm not actually making that claim, because all you have to do is go one step lower to see that I'm not making that claim.
Right.
All you have to do is go read the subtitle. Yeah.
Yeah. I read your book, and you can see I punched holes all throughout it. So I understand that you were not making an active claim that God does not exist. Yeah. I just thought it was odd that was the title of the book. But thank you for clarifying that for me. Now it
would just be a long title that would not fit under anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. So now you mentioned this notion of, well, if my wife was an assassin, I couldn't know it. Now, lest you get misconstrue what I'm saying, I am not saying that I have absolute knowledge. I'm saying that I know someone who does, that can reveal things to me such that I can know them for certain. My wife might work for the Illuminati. In fact, I've been suspicious of it before. But what I am saying is I can give an account for induction. I can give an account for morality. I can give an account for reason and rationality and knowledge. I can do these things. These things I can know for certain. I can't know some things for certain, but these I can know for certain, and you cannot. And that's why I would submit that your worldview is chance, random universe, and it's absurd, and it's lived on a gamble, and mine is not.
Chance and random are not the same thing. When you assign something a probability of like 98%, that's anything but random, right?
Well, no.
Probability and uncertainty are not the same thing. One is chaotic, and one is when you say something is probable, then you have left the world of absolute randomness, right?
So we don't live in a chance and random universe.
Well, again, chance and random, these are not the same thing, right? If you assign chance, if you assign something.
No, what I mean by that, I'm not conflating the two. What I'm saying is we're here by chance as a random occurrence.
Well, I'm a determinist, so I don't believe in that. I believe that everything in the universe has a probability of either 0 or 100%. There's nothing in the middle. The reason for me everything lies in the middle is because there's a barrier between me and the universe. Me understanding the universe. I can't understand the universe with absolute clarity, right? I don't have absolute logic. I don't have, my senses could fail me. So even though the universe is completely not random, is completely determinist. Everything, you could, for me, there's no way for me to track that, right? So for me, everything is actually nothing is 0% or 100%. From my point of view, everything is between 0 and 100%. But from the universe point of view, there's nothing between 0 and 100%. Everything is either 0% or 100%. Do you know what I mean?
Not really. I mean, I've listened to everything you said, but maybe you can explain it to me better. Go. I mean, I listened to what you said, but it sounded like.
So here's the thing. So for example, if I flip a coin in the air, right, and if you pause everything, right, and if I had really good, like let's say, okay, if you could like measure the flow of the air, and if you could measure all the imbalances on the coin, and the strength of the gravity at that point on on different places of the coin, and if I calculated all that while the coin is paused, then before hitting play, I could tell you exactly if it's going to be heads or tails, right? I don't have to guess anymore if it's going to be heads or tail. With that knowledge, I would before the coin falls, you would be able to tell if it's going to be heads or tails, right? And with the same, now take that image and go to the beginning of let's say like 5 seconds after the Big Bang, or right after the Big Bang. If you look at all the all the subatomic parts and look at everything and measure everything, you should be able to predict. If you had absolute knowledge, you should be able to say that we would have this conversation here today, me and you, right? But are
we having this conversation today?
But if we're having this conversation,
we having this conversation?
But we're changing the subject. Let me make my point.
Okay.
The thing is that from the point of the universe, everything that happens could not have been anywhere else. But the thing is, from my point of view, I don't know how much of what I'm understanding and how much of what I'm sensing represents reality. So even though the universe itself, it's not random at all, from my point of view, because I don't have absolute knowledge, I could only assign probability and chance to everything for me to be able to predict what's true or not, or understand what's true or not.
So you said the universe is not random at all. Are you suggesting that it was designed that way?
No.
Okay. How is it not random?
Design suggests intelligence, right?
Yes. So how is it not random?
Again, I explained you in the coin example, right? If I flip a coin, from my point of view, if it's going to be heads or tail, that's a random guess, right? It's 50-50, right? But from the point of view of the universe, the outcome is precisely either heads or tail. You know what I
What?
mean?
Yeah, I mean, no, because you said if you flip a coin, from your point of view, it's random, but from the
Because I
universe,
don't have absolute knowledge, so
no.
I don't
So
know if it's
are
going
you
to
saying
be.
that the universe has absolute knowledge?
No, the thing is that the universe doesn't. If I had absolute knowledge, I would be able to understand the universe exactly as it is. So
But
I wouldn't have to guess. It wouldn't
again,
look random to me. I would know exactly every. The universe doesn't have absolute knowledge, but from the point of view of an absolute knowledge, if such a thing could even exist, which can't. But the thing is that from that point of view, nothing looks random anymore. Everything is already. Do you know what determinism means? Have you?
yes, I do. But what I'm saying is that it refutes itself because you say on one end nothing is random, but on the other hand, you say that it's determined. But and I just don't see how I don't see how this makes sense because something hit our sun and created this very magnificent, complex planets, right?
What?
And that, are you saying that that was determined?
Determine. Okay, determine. If you because when you say determine, I'm not. I mean, in the sense that it could not have happened otherwise. Yes,
Why
but
not?
not. But determine, if you say determine as in the sense of somebody determined it,
Well,
I don't mean that.
no, I
But
know what you mean. I know what you
okay.
mean by determinism. It couldn't have happened another way, right?
Yes, and
Why
and
not?
I could be wrong about that, but that's my view for.
You could be wrong about everything you know.
Okay, but for the sake of practicality, everything I say, just add the clause at the beginning. I could be wrong about it because that's
All
already.
right, I have been.
Okay, good, good.
Okay,
Like I'm just saying, I'm not claiming that this is that I'm 100% right. Okay, but the thing is that why not? Again, I gave you the example because if you could track everything, if you could track all the forces, the direction of the forces, the direction of mathematically, you could, mathematically like measure everything in the universe, then you could be able to exactly see what it's the universe is kind of like, imagine if you're playing pool on a table, right? If once you hit the ball once the ball starts moving, if I could see the speed of the ball and by what force it's going to hit all the other balls, I'm even before everything finishes, I would be able to show you where every ball is going to end at the end when everything stops moving. I would be able to tell you that if I had the exact force hit on the ball, if I could show you the exact direction, exact size of each ball, the weight of each ball, right? So the thing is that all the universe is basically a complicated mathematical formula, right? And if I had absolute knowledge of where everything is right at this second, where every subatomic particle is at this very second, and all the forces and all the energies and and the directions of these forces, and if I had unlimited computing power, I should be able to tell you where exactly everything is going to be 1,000 years from now, right? Where every subatomic particle is going to be 1,000 years from now. That's a deterministic point of view. That means that it's not random. However, from my point of view, even though because I don't have absolute knowledge, a lot of things look random, right? And the thing is that for me to be able to,
but you could know that they're not random.
Again, we don't have to have 100% certainty to make probability claims, right?
Well, but are you 100% certain that we don't need 100% certainty to make
No, but I'm somewhat sure, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Okay, well then that's good. On page 116, you say, "Indeed, it's possible that we do not even really exist, and that there is no such thing as reality. We could all be brains and bats, hooked up to a computer simulation, like the famous movie The Matrix. Everything you know and experience may be a lie." And you're telling me that you don't have faith.
No, maybe, but it's very unlikely. Again,
Yes, but it might be. Do you have faith that you're not?
Wait, do you think that you
answer that question? Do you have faith that you're not?
This is the exact opposite of faith. This is claiming that I can't be sure. Faith is exactly the exact opposite of that.
No, it's not. No, it's not. If you cannot be sure, but you think that that is faith, because that's what you would say about Christians. No. Let me finish, please. You would say this about Christians. You were like, well, you can't be sure that God exists. You just have faith that God exists. But you say, I can't be sure that I'm not a brain in a vat and that I'm not in the matrix. But I just have faith that I'm not.
No. You added the second step. I was with you until you added the second step, right? So you can. But first of all, the Christian never says. I mean, not never. But the most theists don't say that they can't be sure that there's no God. They say there's a God. They actually are very sure, right?
Yes.
This is the opposite. I'm saying I can't be sure. Then they go. They can't be. They say they are sure and they claim knowledge. This is the opposite, because I am saying that I can't be sure and I'm not claiming knowledge. So how is it even close to the same? How is it even close to the same? I'm saying, how is people claiming that they are 100% certain about something the same as somebody saying I don't have absolute knowledge, I could be wrong, so I'm not going to claim absolute certainty about something, I'm just going to assign probability to something? How are these two the same? They are not the same at all. That's not a claim of faith.
It's very I don't see how you don't see it. When you say that I could be a brain in the vat, I don't think it's likely, but I could be a brain in the vat. Do you have faith that you're not a brain in the vat? Yes or no?
No, I don't have faith. I assign probability.
And when you assign this probability, do you have faith in your probability?
No, I don't have faith in my probability. I just assign probability. I'm not. I don't have faith in my probability.
Okay, well, I don't. I'm with all due respect, I think that you're being disingenuous, because if you say that I'm not a brain in the vat, or no, you say I could be a brain in the vat, but I don't really know, it's probable that I'm not, you would necessarily have to have faith that you were not a brain in the vat.
See, it's
predicated on that probability.
On what?
Predicated on that probability that you don't think you're a brain on the vat.
It's very easy to see. It's very easy to see how the probability of that is very low. And here's how.
Okay, that's a mute point. It's okay that probability is low. The fact is that probability stands. The fact is that you're still not certain that you're not a brain in the vat. So therefore, you still have faith. However small that probability is, you still have faith that probability is.
Can you tell me why? It's because you say that, but I haven't seen why you think that's faith. How do you define faith?
Well, the biblical faith is assurance.
So how do you define when you say I have faith? How do you define
that? Is something that you cannot substantiate, but you believe it to be true anyway.
Oh, so when you're using faith is different from the definition. The faith that you're saying I have, the definition of that is different from. So we're talking about two different words.
Yes.
Okay. So
we're talking about two different definitions of faith. We're talking about the same word, two definitions of faith. Because I run.
So then, can we not call it the same thing?
Because this is what you said about faith. You said, "I don't need evidence. I need faith." If you have faith, you know it was true. So your definition, I'm using your definition of faith according to your worldview, not mine.
Okay. So based on the definition is that is claiming knowledge about something that you don't have evidence for, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So my view on faith is that somebody claiming knowledge on something that they don't have evidence for, right? That's how I view faith.
Yes.
Okay, so based on that definition, what I'm saying doesn't meet that criteria, right? Because here's what I said.
Because you don't have knowledge.
Let me
giving knowledge up.
Let me say.
I'm sorry.
I'm telling you why it doesn't meet my definition of faith. Claiming knowledge, I'm not claiming knowledge.
No,
And
you're not.
again, so if I'm not claiming knowledge, and I'm also, I also said if faith is claiming knowledge on something that you have no evidence for. I actually have evidence and still not claiming knowledge. So it actually, so it actually is in both senses, it's the opposite of what I consider faith. So if you're going based on my definition, right, of what faith is, this is not faith in both of those criteria, because the two elements were claiming knowledge for something that you have no support of, no evidence for. I'm not claiming knowledge, even though I have support for it. So,
but you don't.
How does that meet my definition of faith?
Because you don't have evidence that you're in a real reality. By your own admission, you could be a brain in the vat, so you could not know that you even exist. You wrote it in your book.
When I assign probability to things, right?
Yeah, but
it's based on the probability of something goes from just something.
Okay. We're chasing our tails. So here's the deal.
Okay.
By your own admission, you justified your reason with your reasoning, in which you cannot validate. Therefore, you can't even know the words you are saying now meant the same things that they did when you wrote this book, or that they'll mean the same thing the next time you write your next book.
Yeah, well, again, reasoning is. I agree with you. If what you're saying is that reasoning is not perfect, I agree with you with that. My point, but what we disagree on is that I think
absurd.
Okay, all right. But the thing, wait. So are you questioning my reasoning or reasoning in general?
No, just your reasoning. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you want to clarify that, or is that just a statement?
Well, yes, because I question your reasoning, because by your own admission, you have said that you justify your reasoning with your reasoning, but your reasoning could be invalid, and if your reasoning was invalid, you could not know that you were reasoning valid about anything, including this book or the probability.
Just because I think reasoning is not perfect doesn't mean I think it's useless.
That's not what I said. I said because you cannot validate that your reasoning is valid, everything that you say could be invalid, including your objection to faith. But and
it's not a zero. It's not like a zero or all. It's not like you're either 100. You're either by reasoning you get nothing or you get absolute knowledge, right?
You use your reasoning to employ the sentence that you just said.
Again, we've
use your reasoning to employ.
Yes, I did. And the thing is,
but then your reasoning can be invalid. So the very things that you just said could be invalid because you don't know your reasoning could be invalid. So therefore, you have no way to substantiate them.
Okay, the way you're arguing is like I'm showing you that I have a machine that functions reasonably well, and sometimes it makes a mistake.
I'm not talking about machines. I'm talking about.
Let me just give you so I say like it giving me products that is very useful, but sometimes the things that comes out of this machine is faulty, right? But overall, this machine has proven to be very useful, and it's been very helpful in coming up with good predictions that have been consistent, right?
Is that absolutely true?
But
Is that absolutely true?
Let me finish my example, because I'm actually tackling this whole thing that you're saying. You're saying like, and so you come ask me. I say, well, sometimes I get a faulty product, right? And then you say, okay, so because sometimes you get a faulty product, that means every single one of these products could be faulty.
No,
but
sir.
Then I say like, no. There one out of each one of these 100 products are faulty, but overall, this machine is very useful.
That's
You're saying unless I can show that this product is perfect, I have to throw it out.
Nope.
I'm saying this machine, this reasoning machine, is very useful. Overall, it has been very consistent. Overall, it has been very helpful to our life. I'm not going to throw it out, but you're saying either it's 0% or 100%.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's
Okay.
not what I'm saying at all. You've completely misconstrued what I was saying. Yes, sometimes we do reason to things that are not logical. I agree with that. But what I am saying is, if your reason was invalid, you couldn't know it. Therefore, you couldn't know that if you reasoned about valid. So yes, sometimes your machine might be faulty. But if your reasoning is not
Mhm.
valid, you couldn't know if it was faulty or not faulty. And that's my point.
Okay, I see your point. But the thing is that what we have seen, right, even if it's completely faulty, it has been consistent, right? So let's
But
say,
how could you know that it would be consistent if your reasoning wasn't valid? You wouldn't be able to know if it was consistent.
yeah, the thing is that I could work with what I have, right? I'm not going to give up. Even if what you're saying is true, right? Even if not only does my reasoning is flawed, my reasoning about my reasoning is also flawed, given that I'm using my reasoning to judge my reasoning, right? Um, but the thing is that I have one tool in my toolkit, and that's my reasoning, right?
But
And
which you cannot validate. You cannot validate that one tool that you have.
but it's all I have, right?
But it could be invalid, so it doesn't
But
matter. Your tool,
the thing is
that'd be
that
like that'd be like if you had one tool in your toolbox and it was a hammer, but it was missing the head, it wouldn't do much good, would it?
so what would if you were an atheist, what would you do? Would you just jump out of the window? Would you just guess
Maybe
everything is
if I
equally?
was an atheist,
Yes.
oh well,
What would you do?
that's a
What would you
complete.
do? What would you
What would
do
I do?
tomorrow? Yeah.
I wouldn't be an atheist, so I can't. I
No,
mean,
if you were an atheist,
but
would you
that
stop using your reasoning to judge the probability of things around you? Would
no
you, if you were
no
an atheist, would you
no I
just
wouldn't.
drive into upcoming traffic
No, I
because
wouldn't.
who
No, I
knows that
wouldn't.
these are cars or not?
Good, very very good points you've raised here, and we need to close this up. And hopefully, I'll let you get the last word, but let me um, answer that question. If I was an atheist, would I give up reason? Essentially, is what you were asking.
Mm.
Absolutely not. Now, it's not my intent to insult your intelligence. What I am saying is not that you can't come to logical conclusions via your reasons, not that you don't know certain things. What I'm saying is that your worldview has no justification, no foundation for it. Therefore, you are living in the world like you are a Christian, yet you're denying the ground that you're standing on. And Armin, I think you're a really nice guy. I think that I disagree with your book, but I appreciate that you were polite in it. And it is my plea with you to repent. Look at the foundation that you've been standing on this whole time, and repent and see that you've been in ardent rebellion against the King and the Lord of glory this whole time. Because at the end of the day, you will stand before your Creator. And guess what? God doesn't send people to hell for what they don't know. He sends people to hell for what they do know, and that is denying the God that they exist. Now, it is my exhortation to you to repent. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let you get the last word. I think we've had a good conversation. You raised some, okay points. After I watch this video, I'd be willing to, at times it's hard to be quick on our feet and engage like this. So I will watch this video and I'll take in consideration some things that you said, and I would be willing to come back and debate you again if you would be willing. And with that said, I'll give you the last word. It's getting late and it's
Yeah.
like 1 o'clock at least here. So I'll go ahead and let you finish, and then we'll just close with that.
No, I would just say this is good and very civil, and I want to point out that the good thing about having these discussions is not just about changing minds. It's the good thing is that we can show people that strong disagreements doesn't have to mean that we hate each other, right? We could passionately disagree with each other and still be kind to each other, still like each other, still respect each other, still and I think that, as you know, atheists, Muslims, Christians, they should be able to criticize each other's worldview and be completely against each other's worldview and even ridicule each other's worldview. Like, you should feel free to ridicule atheism and
Right.
still be friends with atheists, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's important for people to separate their the view of each other's ideas from the view of each other's as people, right? I should be able to help you move out of your, if you're moving, I should be able to help you, like, move to, and you should be able to, like, give me a ride, I don't know, to the hospital to see my mom, for example, and at the same time find each other's worldviews ridiculous or completely wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that having discussions like this can show to people that passionate disagreement doesn't have to mean that lead to hatred. That's a very, I think that's something that if we could show to more people, it's a win. Even if we don't change their minds about anything, I think. So that's my.
Very good. Well, it's been great talking to you, Armin.
Yeah.
And
thank you for your patience.
Oh no, thank you for mine. I know sometimes things get heated, and I hope I didn't come off as arrogant or anything like that. I just we're both passionate.
I know it's been like, but just one other thing. I just want to say that I admire your intentions, because even though I don't believe in hell, I genuinely believe that you are trying to save me from something that you consider to be very bad for me. And I admire the fact that you care enough for me to try to, and a lot of other people, to try to save them from such a horrible demise, even though I don't believe it's not there. I think that's very admirable.
Oh, thank you. And great. All right. Well,
all right. Have a good
till
night.
next time. All right.
Bye.